Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. What's up, man? What a day, everybody. How's it going? Oh man.
We made it. We made it. It's day one.
Just when you think you're not gonna have headlines anymore, that those days are over, you get one every once in a while.
You take the you erase it. 0 days without incidents.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you my 2 cents on it later. I don't want to open with it. I will give you my 2 cents on it later, because I know Real, obviously. So I'm feeling PTSD here a little bit. I'm like, oh, I have to go through the whole range of emotions of explaining something that's kind of unexplainable. And but I have a lot of experience with it. So I'll give you my 2 cents on that one in a little bit. I'd rather start with fun stuff than really go into all of that.
I shouldn't weigh in because apparently I'm just, a high school educated alcoholic. So I'll just not say anything about it.
Yeah, well, apparently that's all of us. I mean, that's
So I'm like, all right, that's a weird one, but okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all football fans, right? I mean, so
right.
So I mean, like, what are we gonna do?
Come on, man. Radio side's not gonna get that one. Bram just threw a Mike Callow side.
You have to watch on YouTube for my special little chyron that I just built. Mike Callow is a mouth breather.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to come across the day. Here's a clip for social email in about 5 minutes. Yeah,
possibility. All right, I want to have the fun stuff. Today's special day. It's a new year, guys. We're starting the football season tonight, and we got a doozy. We got Ravens and Chiefs. We'll do a little projection for them a little bit later. But I want to go through the divisions. Annual fun time. Let's pick the season. So let's pick the divisions. I'll do the NFC East last. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to go skin tangibles here. So just spoiler alert. So anybody down at Ashburn, my video may not be the most pleasing thing that you hear, but it won't be the worst thing you've heard over the last couple of days. That's for sure. Let's start with NFC North. Okay, let's do NFC. We'll go through the other 3 NFCs. Then we'll do the AFC. We'll come back to the Commanders division. NFC North. All right, let's see. I think there are 3 viable teams here that, not unlike the Commanders being a total wild card in the NFC East, I think the Bears are a total wild card in the NFC North. I think they're going to be very hard to project at first. Their quarterback could be special, could also take a little time like any rookie. They also haven't won in a while. Detroit's kind of weird, but Detroit's kind of steeled. Green Bay got real good in the second half of the season, looked really good in the playoffs, and spoiler alert, Jordan Love might be a top 5 quarterback. So it's going to be a problem if that's the case. Minnesota, I don't buy. I think they have some pretty good skill position players, but I don't buy them from a quarterbacking perspective in this division, and I don't think defensively they're much better than they were a year ago. So I'm not buying them to win the division. I think there's 3 viable teams. I think it's hard to pick the Bears in year one, albeit with the weapons they have, who knows? And if Caleb's really ahead of schedule, watch out. Like, that could be the case. So I think this is, I don't know. I list this as toss-up, but I don't know that in reality that it is. But if Jordan Love ascends to the place that I think he might be going, which is top 5 quarterback in the league, well, they're going to be very difficult to beat. And with Detroit, I buy Dan Campbell. I saw his acting in the Applebee's commercial. Very good. I buy that they love Goff, and I buy that they love this team, and I buy the good juju around them, and I think they got better in the offseason. And I don't think we've seen the best of Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams yet, so they might be more explosive than they've been. So I'm going to call this a toss-up only based on if Love is going where I think he's going, well, we all know what the story is in situations like that. If he's not that good, then I like Detroit a little bit better. So that's where I've kind of landed on it. And I guess I officially would pick Detroit to win the division, but I think it's total toss-up between those 2 teams.
I did the North yesterday, so this one's fresh in my mind. But I ultimately landed on can Detroit actually deal with this level of being a favorite, this level of positivity? As you just mentioned, Dan Campbell's doing commercials. I think this is actually going to be a little bit too big for them. Like, I'm not going to say in the long term that it's going to affect them, but like,
I thought last year it would be that. See, I thought all the hype would get to them and it didn't. So that actually proves something to me that it didn't.
And I'll steal one of your points. You know, Dan Campbell played Dan Campbell ball in that game against the Niners. And I defended it at the time that, you know, he played consistently for the entire season and he played it like he did in the playoffs, right? But they have to sit with that the entire offseason as well. And you know how that goes. Sometimes that can go sideways on you. I just think with Green Bay, as successful as they've been as a franchise, a team, a culture, I think this is going to be a neck and neck race. And I think Detroit's going to crumble under the pressure when it's all said and done. I think they both make the playoffs. I'll say that. But I think I think Green Bay wins this. You can get them at a little bit of a value too. They're the second favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you on because I play a lot of poker. You can't push your chips in every time.
Yeah.
Like you've got to pick and choose. He does it a little too much. He did it in that Dallas game a year ago late, and then he did it in the playoffs. And when you play with that kind of fire, it burns you. Yep. And so I agree. And maybe there's a little bit of a lesson learned. Maybe they'll scale it back just a little bit. Maybe last year was about, we're not going to back down. But now that they're here, maybe they play with a little more control, you know, the controlled anger that they have. And that may help them. I like their team across the board a little bit better as a roster, with the exception of, I do think Love is going to turn into a really, really, really good high-level quarterback. And we all know what the story is. When you have one of those in your division, it becomes almost impossible to beat. The window for Detroit feels like it's right now, because if Caleb's going to become what we think he's going to become and Love is going where we think he's going, well, Goff will never be those two. Yep. So it's kind of got to happen right now for Detroit. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those. At least I feel good for them. At least they had a joyride, because they haven't had one in 50 years. So at least they had a joyride.
Their key stat too, by the way, I think I read it yesterday when I was going through it. 22 draft picks are on that team. I mean, that's an unbelievable run for them. So, I mean, the other part about that is they're still going to continually reload. But as you just said, if their quarterback doesn't ascend, that means nothing essentially. So we'll see.
So I'll officially pick Detroit, but I think it's a toss-up. All right.
Okay.
And I also agree with you. I think they're both in the playoffs this year. All right. NFC South. Of course, we play that division this year. We start with an NFC South team this weekend. Tampa Bay's won the division 3 years in a row. 2 of them are Tom Brady being the quarterback. One of them isn't. Baker had a career turnaround year for him. Career highs in passing yardage, touchdowns. I've been getting prepped for the game. There are some metrics about him under pressure that are actually, you'd be shocked. He was like number 2 accurate passer under pressure last year. I think Rachaad White's a very good running back. I think they have a versatile running game, not an explosive running game, but a versatile running game. He's a very good receiver out of the backfield as well. I kind of know this team a little too well than I know the other ones. So I've been watching. To your point about all the draft pick stuff, go look at the roster makeup of Tampa Bay and you'll go, I can't wait till Adam Peters is doing this. It's like 40 something of their players are drafted or undrafted free agents, and they're paying their own guys because they're elite. Tristan Wirfs just got the biggest deal for any tackle. Antoine Winfield just got the biggest deal for any safety. So they're building through the draft and it's succeeding. Is Baker a big time, take him over the top type quarterback? We'll have to see. Is he good enough? Yes. And they got him on the right price deal for sure if he's the right guy for them. They've done this a few too many times recently. They're overlooked constantly. New Orleans, I don't think he got any better in the offseason. And I don't love Carr. And I don't love Taysom Hill coming in and playing all the time at quarterback. Carolina, I don't think anybody, you can't pick them. This is a show me year for Bryce Young with this coach. I think they got the right coach at the right time for this quarterback to find out, is he any good or not? I don't think their roster's good enough. And some of their stud players aren't even there anymore. Like, they just traded Brian Burns for whatever reason, I don't buy them at all. I don't think anybody's buying them. The only one that really stands in my way of just flatly picking Tampa is Atlanta, but they are the bling bling of the NFL. They went and got Kirk, and then they drafted another quarterback, and they've got Bijan, and they've got Pitts, and they've got good receivers, and I don't know what they have on defense. And maybe they are, with all those players, a top 5 offense, but somehow I just don't buy it's going to happen. So I am picking Tampa because they're surefire, they're steady. And if Atlanta wins it, I guess talent would kind of overwhelm, Tampa Bay, I guess, to win it. But for some reason, I don't buy this all comes together in year one under a new coach. So I'm going to take Tampa because I think they're a steadier and more solid pick to win that division.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't see it all coming together for Atlanta. I like Atlanta a little bit more than other people, though. Like, Kirk should keep them steady. He should be able to unlock some of the offensive potential that we've been waiting for that offense. I think they'll be better. I actually like what they did on defense after the draft, making a couple trades after everyone kind of knocked them for drafting Penix. I like their makeup. But as you know, my favorite Atlanta story is this. Anytime they sniff being good, that city goes crazy in a bad way. The players start partying a little bit more. Like, it's a story every time. Like, even I'm listening to podcasts where athletes and rappers are like, yeah, anytime the Falcons are like 500, the clubs go crazy down there. Now, the good part about them is they have a quarterback that's not going to party in Kirk. So Kirk's going to probably keep them in this thing until the end of the year. But I'm with you. I think you have to go with the steady hand in Tampa. I am not.
Kirk is off a bad injury too. Like people forget that part.
True.
I'm sure he'll be fine. Just like I think Aaron Rodgers will be fine, but he's an older guy off Achilles. I mean, this is like, there's no certainty that he's going to come back and be really good again.
I think the one thing I'll say with Tampa, though, is I'm not buying Baker again yet. Like, I've seen this before where you have the 1 year blip as a veteran or a high pick and you look good and everyone all of a sudden wants to say, oh, he's fixed. I'm not buying that yet, especially losing the offensive coordinator going to Carolina. Will they ask him to do the same things he did last year, or will he just remain solid? I think if he just remains solid, they'll be fine. But we don't know with Baker. Like, I don't buy this usually when you get the 1 year wonder out of a high pick or a veteran.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think it's a little different with him. I think the potential was always there. And I also know, because I talked to Sarah Walsh, she's my buddy who lives down there and covers the Bucs all the time. She was telling me this last year. She goes, the real thing for him is that he just loves being there. I think being a little under the radar, it was a franchise that's good, but doesn't get a lot of attention. It's been good for him. Like, he's just not getting hassled by the media all day long about, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? What about your personality? Like, they're not coming at him like that. And he just likes being there. And it does not hurt when you have a first ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver as your number one of the best number twos. And apparently this third receiver, Jalen McMillan, was totally overshadowed by Rome Odunze at Washington, but is a total burner. And they think they're going to unleash him on us this weekend. Yeah. So they have a very good set of weapons there. And they've had what has been consistently a top 10 defense. So I think it's hard to pick against them. I'll hear you on, was that a blip on the radar for Baker? But I don't know that I feel that way about him. I think there's some longevity there. I don't think he's ever going to be great. Like, I don't see that, but they're also not paying him to be. I mean, like, they got him at what is essentially half the price of what a going rate top flight quarterback is. So that gives them roster flexibility to do all these other things. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat. Is he good enough to win a Super Bowl? I guess we'll have to see, but I think they're good enough to win that division. That's kind of how I feel about that one.
Got it.
All right. NFC West. I mean, it's easy just to pick the 49ers, and they probably have the best team. I think Arizona's hard to figure. People are kind of dismissing them. They were actually quite competitive and stayed competitive late in the year. Kyler's back for what will hopefully be a full season. If I was in fantasy drafts, if you're taking a shot on a rookie, I think Marvin Harrison is going to walk in the door and post humongous numbers. He's a clear number one for them. And he's got a real quarterback. So they don't have other options. I think he's going to blow up in his rookie season. So I think he's a perfect fit for them. I think across the board, they don't have a good enough team to win that division, because I don't like their roster against any of the other three, but they're probably a little more competitive and probably more troublesome. And maybe they're the team this year that when they either beat the Niners or beat the Rams, that's the difference at the end in the division. I like Seattle. I want to see what happens with McDonald going there and bringing that defensive scheme to them, because if they're more inventive and tougher to figure, then they're probably more competitive. But this probably does come down to quarterback play, because their quarterback, I wouldn't take Geno or Howell over Stafford or Purdy at this point. The Niners probably have the best roster of the group. They got to regroup and do this again. you have a lot of people complaining all the time about pay scales. I kind of like the Rams. I think I said this like a week ago. I kind of like the Rams, like underrated. They spent a lot of money on their offensive line, so they're going to try to protect Stafford. I think this whole season comes down to keeping him healthy. If he is healthy, I love Puka and Cooper Kupp. I love Kyron Williams. I think they're good enough. McVay, obviously, they were in the playoffs a year ago with a team that should not have been there. Is their defense good enough? That's an interesting open question for them. But I'm going to take a shot here, and I think it's on a limb a little bit. I like the Rams because can San Francisco regenerate it again and again and again and again? And I don't know. And I know this is like, I'm probably off, and the easy answer is probably just take San Francisco, but I'm going to take a shot, go on a limb a little bit, and trust McVay with what I think is going to end up being a top 10 to top 5 offense to somehow get one more win than San Francisco does this year.
I like the Rams as a value. They're the second favorite in that division, and I just think they actually have a really good roster. And now we've seen it over the last 2 or 3 seasons. They're really good at drafting. Like, they did F them picks for a couple years, and then we realized, oh, they're actually really good at picking players and having them, compete right away. I have to go Niners here just because their top talent might be the best talent in the league. Like Trent, Debo, Ayuk,
McCaffrey,
Kittle, McCaffrey. Like, I like the roster of the Rams player for player, but the top tier talent of the Niners is what gets you there. And I just think Shanahan even kind of knows this might be the last real shot before they have to pay Purdy.
That's right.
I think the Niners barely do this, but I'm with you. I really like the Rams this year. I think the other X factor here, though, that dings the Rams, though, is, Stafford, he either gets hurt or he doesn't get hurt every year. And that might be the difference there. If he gets banged up for 2 weeks, that might literally be the difference between winning the division. And that's why I think I'm just going to settle in on the 49ers. I'm with you, though. I really like the Rams in the long run.
All right. AFC East. Bloodbath should be. Patriots are reboot year. Starting Brissett will probably turn to May at some point. Team is definitively not good enough to win that division on paper with the roster. I will buy that they'll be competitive on defense after seeing them a couple of weeks ago with their personnel. I believe that, but they're not going to score enough to win. I mean, there's too many good offenses in their division, so they're not going to score enough. Buffalo's in a reboot year. We've seen this before. They have a great quarterback. They have reshuffled the deck. They're going to rebuild the roster, but this year doesn't look like it's the right one to win. So I have a hard time buying it. And Allen's nuts. He'll blow a couple games on his own. So his team's not good enough to overcome him blowing a couple games this time. So their record is probably something in the middle of the road, 9-8, maybe 10-7, because he's so good and they've won a lot, maybe. But that's not good enough to win this division this year. Jets are I don't trust Saleh. I just, there's something there that I'm like, when things go wrong, will he keep the ship steady, and will he make the proper adjustments? And he proved last year that he was incapable of it. So let's see because they'll have adversity, whether it's Aaron Rodgers saying something crazy on McAfee or some injury gets to them and it's a big one. How do they handle it? And last year they failed that test hardcore, and it's New York. So there's a ton of pressure. And how bad does Aaron want to win? I don't know, anymore, like off the injury, like he's back, but is he really back? Like, I don't know. So I'm taking Miami here because they've been in this the last couple of years. I buy McDaniel, totally buy him. I buy their scheme. I buy their speed. I think their offense is going to be outstanding this year. And so I totally buy them. So I think defensively, are they as good as the Jets? No, they might not even be as good as New England, frankly. But I think they're good enough. If Chubb and Phillips come back from their injuries and are playing on the edge, I think they're good enough. I think their secondary is definitively good enough. So I'm going to take them to outscore everybody this year, and they win that division.
I'm going to regret saying this, but I do think it's going to be the Bills. I know they're hitting the reset button. I know Josh Allen's going to have all the pressure in the world under him, but we're starting to see this in the NFL. If you are an elite type quarterback, the teams start to take away from the rest of the roster, knowing that they're paying you this amount of money. My problem isn't really with Buffalo taking things away. It's that I've never seen a killer instinct from Miami. That's my biggest problem with the Dolphins. They blow
keep
it
getting to the playoffs, though. They're
do.
there.
They
Yeah,
do, but they
they're
keep
there.
outscoring people, and they lost pieces on that defense this year. I think that's actually the story down there is like they didn't replace their defensive guys. And I don't know, like you like to do this test with head coaches. Do you see McDaniel ever lifting the Lombardi trophy? Because I don't.
So, I do actually.
Oh,
I do. I do. When I listen to him, I think he is.
When you look at him, I'm not talking about
when
listen.
I look at him, no, but he is so crazy attention detailed. Like I know it when I know it when I see it and when I hear it. And so I agree with you. Like there's something, especially with his hair these days, where he's straight out of an 80s movie with Sean Penn in it. Like there's something off about the whole thing. But I watch, especially when I went to that practice, I watched them. And I lost in their story a year ago was Phillips and Chubb got hurt in like the last 2 weeks of the season. They lost two of their best defensive players like overnight, and it changed everything on their defense at the worst possible time. So it just looked like they fell off a cliff like they did a year ago, like the year before. And remember the year before when they got to the playoffs, Tua wasn't even playing. So I think if the Cards don't, the house fall like it has 2 years in a row on them, that's why I like them. Like they've actually been there a couple times already. The Jets haven't done anything like this. That's why I don't trust them. And with the Bills, I agree. Allen is amazing. I just don't like the reset roster. And if they have a bad record again, people are going to come after McDermott for some other crazy thing we haven't heard that he said in a meeting or something like that. So I like Miami. I think they've had bad luck at the end of these last couple of years. And if they don't have bad luck again, watch out for them.
All right. What I will finish this off though is the Jets are the old Redskins. Like we've seen this before. A veteran quarterback, kind of a last run here with a roster that we know is not like the best in the world. Also, that ownership clearly doesn't really know how to run that team. I'm just going to say this. The Jets are definitively third. It's going to be Miami and Buffalo for 1 and 2, but
their roster should be 1, but
right.
Like, I don't trust it.
Yes,
I don't trust
exactly.
Yeah. All right. AFC South. Everybody's picking the hey, CJ Stroud had a great rookie season. I buy that coach for sure. I like the young team. They got all the juju, I think we're all talking about them all offseason here because we're like, we want to be them, like take off in year one like that, have a quarterback that has a rookie season like that, really kind of take off. And then I look at the rest of the division and I go, who's beating them? Like I'm trying to find a place to beat them. And I think they're just an easy answer. The Colts, after seeing Anthony Richardson in the preseason, I do not buy it. And like they had said, he was a project coming in. He got hurt. He's an incredible athlete, but is he ever going to be accurate enough? I've seen this too many times. If you're not accurate enough, you can't win. You can't run your way to too many wins. It just doesn't work that way. And then he's already gotten hurt once. I think Tennessee might be surprisingly better than people think they're going to be, but probably not good enough to really compete to win the division. And Jacksonville, I don't know. This feels a little like they should be good again, but they didn't do anything to really move the needle. So I don't really trust that they're going to be any better than they were a year ago. So I'm just going to take the easy answer and take Houston here to win the division.
I'm going to do the old, because I always am wrong on the pick. I'm just going to go Jacksonville here because I feel like Jacksonville is the Washington defensive line. It's going to be great this year. It's going to be awesome. And then they're not. And then we don't think about it the following year. And then, I don't know, like, I'm just saying here, can the Texans do it 2 years in a row? I don't know because they also ratcheted up, not unlike the Lions, ratcheted up the pressure real fast. They traded for Diggs. All of a sudden, there's all these expectations down there. Give me the Jags just to sneak this one in somehow, some way with old Dougie P down there, and Trevor gets him over the hump.
Like at this point, I would have expected Trevor to have done a few things that you could go, name the game that he won for them. There's a little bit of Brad going on there where you're just like, he's good. Everybody likes Trevor, like he's great. Everybody loves him, but name the games where he was the separating difference. And I can't believe, like, I think he's good, but he doesn't have these moments. And I already seen it from Stroud. So like Trevor's good. It's time to elevate into an elite quarterback. I haven't seen it yet. So, and that's why I think I'm just going to take the Texans here.
Trevor Beal or Bradley
Yeah.
Lawrence? Which one you going with?
Bradley Lawrence definitely gets a spread in Hot Magazine for sure. 100%. AFC West, I think, is very easy. I mean, it's hard to pick against the Chiefs just in general, but then go look at the other three teams. Vegas looks like a S show, honestly. And like they tried to get a quarterback, didn't get one. So I think they'll probably be fine, but not good enough to win. Denver's starting a rookie quarterback. You got to really buy Sean Payton to buy that. And then the Chargers, like, listen, I love Harbaugh, and I believe in a year or two, watch out. Like, they're going to be tough as nails, the whole thing, and they're going to be saying weird mantras, and everybody's wearing khakis in LA for some reason, but not this year. And they rebooted all those star players, and I think they're rebooting, and this is going to be a classic year one. We're going to set our system, build our chemistry, build the foundation, but they're not good enough to beat Mahomes. So I actually think this is a cakewalk. Chiefs win that division handily.
I'll just go with what the storyline is going to be here. The Chiefs are going to do what they do every single year and start off like 4-3 or something like that. And they're going to get a segment on First Take where it's what's wrong with the Chiefs, and everyone's going to talk about them. And then they're going to do what they do every single year and rip off 6 or 7 straight wins in the second half of the year.
Tonight. Easily.
Yeah.
And people are going to make, everything's changed.
Like, don't buy it. It's the Patriots. The Patriots did this every year where they would just kind of react to the first 6 weeks of the league, not try to go crazy. And then Andy Reid and Mahomes go into the lab and they figure it out. So that's how the storyline's going to go. I will say this. It depends how the AFC North goes with those 4 teams. I like the Chargers to make it into the playoffs on a wild card spot. Like, I don't know. I have a feeling Harbaugh could will them into a spot. It depends how some of those other division races are going to go, though.
I mean, honestly, like in that division, them being second place because it's the Raiders and the Broncos wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, right.
So that might position them. But they're going to be 3 games behind the Chiefs. Like, they are. All right, AFC North, bloodbath.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot, though. I don't like what's going on in Cincinnati. Like,
Thank you. Neither do I.
I loved it. I think they're not a team that keeps their team together, and you're seeing it. Like, some of the defensive players are gone. They're haggling with Chase, even though he is 2 years out, which I can see this family ownership going, we don't do business that way. And he goes, no, player, it's 2024. This is how it goes. They get paid, I get paid, and they're going to buckle and give it to him. They didn't give Higgins a long-term deal. The only person they've paid is Burrow. Mixon is now gone. Like, I don't like that. Like, so, and in that division where the other 3 teams are all good, I think it's a sinking ship, honestly, other than the fact that Burrow's great. So I'm not going to pick them. I do think they're well coached, though. I will give them that, too. I think they're well coached. Pittsburgh is extremely well coached. Pittsburgh's quarterback situation will probably sink them this year because the other 3 teams are too good. Cleveland is all about Deshaun. If he ever looks like the guy he was a couple years ago, pre all the stuff that happened that got him traded out of Houston, well, then they have an elite quarterback. But we haven't seen it since. And if it's not going to be that way, it's just not going to be good enough. So I'll take the tried and true thing that has been consistent here, which is the one holdup I have is their defense. The Ravens was amazing a year ago. That defensive coordinator is gone, and his chief lieutenant is the one who's the DC in Miami now. So it's a whole new defense again. And I remember last year thinking, I don't love their personnel. Like, whatever they're doing, they're rewriting the defensive playbook for sure. It's really schematically based, but I don't love their personnel. So I want to see the reboot there, but I buy Lamar. Last year, they should have been in the Super Bowl. It was their year to do it. They blew it at home. Can they regenerate and make a run again? And I think the addition of Derrick Henry might put their offense over the top because he probably gives them a couple of games where they can lean on him as opposed to having to lean on Lamar. So they've done it too many times. Don't like the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. Cleveland is show me for sure. And Cincinnati, I feel like they shouldn't be going. This should be their window to be great, but I think they're mismanaging their roster. So give me the Ravens.
Yeah, this one's about what the other teams aren't doing than what the Ravens are doing, I think. I'm with you. Like, Henry's going to win them a couple of games. What are you going to do on 3rd and 1 against that offense? Like, there's nothing you can do to stop them from getting a yard against you. I like the Ravens here. I love your point on the Bengals, too. I was talking about it yesterday on my show. There's something wonky there. They're leaning on Burrow too much already. I just don't like that makeup of the team either. I'm with you. I like their coach, but there's way too many things going wrong there. And then the Steelers aren't going to win it because of their division. They'll stay competitive. They'll probably beat one of these teams, each of these teams one time.
Yeah.
And
They'll
then
be 9-8 again, but it's not good enough.
Correct. Right. And then going to the Browns are interesting because if Deshaun can just get a little bit better, I really like them to make some noise. You got to remember, Chubb, I don't know if he bounces back from that injury, but he'll be available partway through the year. I think he's on PUP. So after the first 4 or 6 games, like I kind of like them if they hover around 500, then he comes back and then Watson looks a little bit better. Like I could see a pathway for them to being close to winning the division or being a wild card team. Remember, they were a wild card team with Flacco last year. So I kind of like them a little bit more than other people do.
I like their roster. I agree.
But it's like if Watson doesn't step up, then they don't stand a chance in that division. It's about the Ravens actually holding steady more than the other teams.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me take a quick break. We'll do the NFC East next. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital, and of course, you can hear the podcast via Empire Media, and we're taping a lot of these shows. So if you don't know, Callow and I are up on YouTube on the Empire Media YouTube page. Not every day. When we have to do audio only, I don't do it, but when we are able to get face-to-face, I put it up so you can check that out there as well. Before we get to a prediction for the NFC East this year, do you want to mention congratulations to Sam Cosmi, who becomes the first Commanders holdover player to get an extension from this front office and this coaching staff, which, part is, well, his contract was up. So he was like, it's a little bit circumstance, but I do think it's a big deal that they chose him to do this with. There are not many others actually, because McLaurin has another year beyond this year. So there's not many others to look at and think about. Payne's under contract. Allen's under contract. Terry's under contract. He was really the only prominent one that was kind of up, but they went and did it ahead of schedule and ahead of the season. I know they've been talking for a few weeks. I'd heard that, and I assumed something would get done. And to me, honestly, it's a no-brainer. A couple of years ago, I think I was harping on this. I'm like, I think this guy's better as a guard. They came around to he's better as a guard. He has to want to be a guard. He killed it last year. I mean, very underrated how good he was a year ago in that position because of what was happening in and around him. Great guy, really great teammate, like really hard worker. This was a no-brainer. And I thought it was very touching when he was talking about, my family came from another country. They had nothing. We moved to Texas. They put us in this position. I'm just so grateful I get to do this for my family. He checked all the boxes of this is great. And I've loved being around him for a few years, and I'm so glad he's staying. He's a pillar of the organization, and I'm happy for him that he got the money, and he deserves it because I think he could be a Pro Bowl level player. So I think he deserves it.
He is the epitome of a player that has finally settled in, right? I mean, they drafted him to be a tackle. They then rotated him at both positions, sometimes in the same game. We all knew that he was good, but he just kind of needed to find his spot. They put him at guard. He ends up being a stud at guard. And I'm with you. He's actually come around, I really think, in the last year and a half as one of the leaders on the team. One of the guys that actually is like, I mean, you can probably attest to this. He seems like he's sneaky funny. Like he's got a couple of those clips where he's dancing and then he's doing the cartwheel during practice and stuff. He screams one of those locker room guys that I've liked for a while here.
Awesome.
And also like it helps. He's a good to great guard on a bad unit of an offensive line. You got to lock those guys up. Yeah. You can't let them hit free agency. So perfect storm for him. I'm very happy for him too. He seems like a good dude.
I wasn't surprised at all. I thought this was a no-brainer, but it's notable. This is the first time that they've put real money towards a player that was already here. So, and I think he deserves it. Very quickly, Devontae Adams is telling everybody he doesn't hate Las Vegas. And Mina Kimes, of course, this was circulated in all our algorithms around here, made some kind of statement of not only will he get traded, but I could see Washington going after him because he has a contract that could be reworked and you could keep him for a while. And this wouldn't be an over-the-top move for someone like Washington. They would get him to bring him here and have him here and pair him with, I would think pair him with McLaurin. He did a press conference saying, I don't hate living here. Please stop saying that. Or I don't hate being there. Please stop saying that. However, if things go sideways, I could see a trade of him just because Vegas decides that's the right thing to do for them. So I think both things can be true at the same time. He may like being a Raider and may like being there, and they may determine until we get a quarterback, it's all a moot point to have him, and all these teams want him, and it's valuable, we'll move him. So I think two things can be true there.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, he can say he doesn't hate it there, but at the same time, we can look at that roster and go, they're not going to be good. And not only they're not going to be good, they're going to be terrible in their own division. Like sometimes, yeah, both things are true. I just think it's funny. This is the second time he's had to come out and say he doesn't hate it there. It's not really about you at that point. It's about everyone looking at the league and going, you're a movable contract and somebody wants you on their team. It's not about you. Like he shouldn't have to say this at this point.
All right, I'm only going to spend a minute on this because I said I would spend a minute on this. But yesterday, a video comes out that features the vice president of content with the team, Ray Alentine. A couple things I want to say about it first. I'm sure most of you that are listening to this have seen it. Okay, it's one of the worst produced videos I've ever seen in my life. Who is the guy who keeps in the middle of it popping up going, "This is Ray Alentine"? Like it was the worst presentation I've ever seen of something like this. Two, I gotta say, like a got you surreptitious taping on a date is a very below the belt thing to do. I get that this group, I didn't know who they were, but then when I heard who runs it, now I know who this is. They do this type of thing. Why they targeted him or the Commanders, I don't know, but they clearly did. And so there's an ethical part of this that sucks, right? Like totally sucks. Like he got duped by some girl that he's, probably trying to whatever. And she's doing this. And I assume he didn't know he was being taped. Like I assume that, right? He still said what he said. So I'm not overlooking that part of it. And that is the worst first date ever. Why are you saying these things to somebody you don't know? Like, why? Forget the taping part of it. Why are you saying these things to someone you don't know? So
the joke here of the whole DC dating scene was running rampant last night. It was hilarious seeing that reaction because that's a whole other subject. And I'm with you. The media side of me is going, oh, this is like dirty. This is like bad, so the way it goes. But he still said what he said.
I know.
And by the way, it wasn't like one group he went after. He hit Goodell. He hit Jer. He hit the fans. He said the fans are mouth-breathing alcoholics that are only high school educated. Like, I don't know, man. Last time I checked, the NFL is the most popular sport in America. Let's calm down on that. And then the things he said about how players react to certain things, he left no stone unturned. Who do you like is my question here. As someone that's a fan and a media member, you hate everybody apparently.
It's really bad. And, obviously I know him, so like I'm back in my space that I've been for 20 years that I haven't been in for 6 to 8 months. I've been in rehab from all of these types of stories.
Yeah.
But obviously I know him and I've worked with him and I don't, I just don't, I was surprised to hear those things come out of his mouth. I was, and I know him. So I was very surprised to hear those things come out of his mouth. And I do hate how it was acquired. Like I think there's a level of ethics that really needs to be discussed here too, and how terrible that was, that's how that, emerged. And I don't appreciate what this group did to acquire that type of video and audio, but he said what he said and he can't take it back and it's on video. So I'm not absolving him of saying the things that he said. I also do not agree with most of the stuff that he said, like almost all of it. Like I don't think of fans that way at all. Like I wholly disavow and disagree with all of these things that were said. The same time, like people say crazy crap on a date. I'm like watching this going, I'm like watching this thinking, like, is he saying this thinking he's impressing this girl? Like that's the only motivation I can come up with is he thinks this is impressing her by saying this to her. So,
like as someone who's had to date in his 30s here, I've got some pointers in a different realm for him. Like that's not impressing anybody. I'm just telling you that. Like you got to keep it tight. Keep it tight, man.
All right, let's do the NFC East real quick here. We did every other division. So let's see. I don't like the Giants, especially after Hard Knocks. Really don't like the Giants, and clearly they don't like their quarterback. So that probably is not going to end up in a division win for them. Dallas, we've talked about a million times. like they have a good team, but they seem to be getting in their own way. They seem to be kind of in the middle road of, we want to still compete, but we know we have to reset and we have to pay these guys, which means we have to make decisions about other guys, including their quarterback. And that may change, soon. It sounds like Jerry's getting forced into doing a deal. Like, it sounds like it's happening, but still they're not better than they were a year ago. And it's hard to picking up the pieces. And, they're not the Patriots, under Belichick. Like they don't have a history of success and losing people and being fine. So I don't buy them. The Commanders, I would love to be wildly optimistic and just go, who knows? And if the Eagles go sideways again and they go full Sirianni, well, then, who knows? Maybe the door is open. I just think it's baked in for Washington, whether they're really good out of the gate or Jaden's really great out of the gate. I think it's just too baked in with so many changes to think that they're going to win 12, 13 games, which is probably what it's going to take. So I'm just going to take what I think is the best roster this year, and that's Philadelphia. And, I was talking about this yesterday with you. I thought there would be more observation of relationships and just talking about it constantly. And I haven't heard enough of it. So I think that they're fine. And whatever it was a year ago is being fixed. And I think their team specifically offensively is just a little too good. So I think Philadelphia wins the division this year. And I'm very, very, very hopeful that Washington's a wild card team, that they could be the second place team in this division and get a wild card.
I'm with you. Philly wins this. They signed Saquon Barkley to be the pressure release, I think. That way they don't have to rely on Hurts. As you mentioned yesterday, they paid everybody, so nobody can get pissed off about where the ball goes. Week to week, that's not going to be as much of an issue as it was last year. This is also, though, I think they're in the same realm as the Cowboys, as I could see things going sideways for both of those teams. But I think Philly survives going sideways more than Dallas survives going sideways this season. They survived it last year, honestly. I know they coughed up the division at the last second, but I think they're more talented. They'll survive this thing. The Cowboys, I think, could go sideways, and I think we go off of what we said yesterday. I think the Commanders need to stay in striking distance if they want to come in second place and possibly get a wild card. It's, do the Cowboys go that sideways that the Commanders can overtake them? I don't know, but I think that's the pathway. I'm with you, too. The Giants finish in fourth. I think the Giants are going to get some good wins, though. I said this yesterday, too. I like Daboll. So I think Daboll is going to get a couple of surprise wins here and there. But they're not going to be good enough to be anything higher than the fourth place.
Very good front. So maybe they get a couple games. They flip a couple games with sacked, fumble type stuff. Very good coach. I agree. So they're not, they're going to be not going to be awful, but I just don't. I think the juju's all off, and I think they're going to be rethinking that front office if they have a bad year, 5-win season, something like that. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll talk about the Chiefs and the Ravens, which open the season tonight next. Bram and Callow, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Bram and Callow, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I have to make mention of this. Worst first pitch ever. Apparently, Croy Bethune, the star rookie of the Washington Spirit, tore her meniscus throwing out a first pitch at a Nationals game. This was post the Olympics. They came back. They were celebrating the gold medal. She was she played a little bit, but she was mainly an alternate. Trinity Rodman was there. They were all there. And apparently she tore her meniscus doing a ceremonial first pitch. She's out for the year.
I mean, I got a text yesterday. DC sports are back. That's what I got yesterday. And this is one of the more unfortunate incidents that we've had in a while. Where's Dan Steinberg in the sports blog on this one? Because this is kind of an all-timer. We had Croy on our post-game interview, and you pretty much said, barring injury, you should be able to break this assist record, and that actually ended up league
assist record. She had 9 matches left to break a league assist record as a rookie.
Yeah, and you said barring injury, and then she went throughout the first pitch, and now she's not going to play again, and it's really unfortunate. It sucks. This is also an injury. I don't know how long it takes to recover, but I doubt she's going to be fully recovered heading into next season. So
I have to talk to the team about it. I don't know, but it's terrible.
Yeah, so that's a bad one. And by the way, this is one thing I'll make an observation on. You don't have to throw off the mound. This is the whole thing. she threw off the mound. You could throw off in front of the mound, and I think that's probably going to be the thing going forward for any athlete.
I also, a quick mention of this, maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. Me and Magic Johnson have just so much in common these days.
Magic.
I'm calling the Commanders of the Spirit. He's minority owner of now both of these teams, the Commanders and the Spirit. That was announced today. So me and Magic Johnson. I'm like, I never thought I'd say this, that in my life, I have so much in common with Magic Johnson.
I think if I had to assume, he'd probably be at the match on Saturday. Can you just hit him up? You can fly with him, because he's going to go to Tampa too. So, I mean, I would just say, can you hit him up?
Well, yeah, give me a ride, buddy. That'd be great. Let's see. Let's do real quick. Before I do season opener, we didn't pick a Super Bowl. Kind of have to, don't we? We picked the whole season.
Yep.
Picked all the division winners. I'll do this real quick since kind of out of time. Ravens, Packers. I'm not as solid on the Packers. I do feel like this is it for the Ravens, guys. Last stand, time to do it. I think they're going to get through and get there, and Lamar is going to win his first championship this year. So I got Ravens, and I'm not as solid on the Packers. There's just nobody in the NFC that I think is like the juggernaut this year. So I'll take Green Bay off of what they did in the playoffs a year ago. If they replicate that, maybe they surprise people, get there, and then the Ravens beat them. That's what I see.
I'm not making this mistake again. Chiefs are going to represent the AFC. There's no one that's going to stop them. Travis is going to propose to Taylor Swift after they win. That Chiefs are going to be the winners. Give me Chiefs Niners. Give me a rematch of last year. This is going to be the last hurrah for the 49ers. We didn't talk about it, but I don't know if you saw the report about the ownership complaining about how much they spent this offseason. And I think they realize this is their last hurrah. I think they're going to put it all into this. So give me a rematch, and I think the Chiefs win again.
And then they got to pay Purdy.
Yep.
So
they're already bitching about paying people, and they have to pay the most important position on the team.
All right, last thing real quick. The season opens tonight, Baltimore, Kansas City. I think this is fool's gold to try to pick one of them. I think they're both really, really, really good. Kansas City typically actually starts a little slower and they readjust. Baltimore is probably stinging from what happened a year ago. Remember, Detroit went out there and won and kind of set a tone. Give me the Ravens, just off same idea. They're going to go out there. They're the ones that have to redeem themselves, set a tone. They win. It means nothing towards what anything really is going to matter. But for a good season opener, give me the Ravens tonight to win by a touchdown.
I'll take that too. Baltimore even said yesterday, some of their players, they were not shying away from the emotion of the AFC Championship game, that they were going to let them fuel them tonight. So give me Baltimore tonight as well, and cheap plug as well. 7:50 pregame on ESPN 630 with Jerry Sandusky on the call. So 7:50 pregame, 8:20 kick.
Wow, we're back. Hay is in the barn, baby. Hay is in the barn.
That's right.
All right, we'll do a full preview of Commanders and Buccaneers tomorrow. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.